And we are live. What is up, everybody? Aaron the dog back from 9-month hiatus. I believe it was UFC last card that Lucky Locks myself and just my 2 cents completed here on the channel. Took a little bit of a break because Leo got robbed. Then he got knocked out by a senior citizen. So now we're back for really, I think this might have been the first kind of series that Lucky Locks and I actually worked together on. Maybe we did LFA before this, but this is one of the originals here. Without any further ado, the return of the GOAT of the regional MMA game, Lucky Locks picks. Good to see you, man. It's been 9 months.
What's up, guys? It's nice to be back. I appreciate the kind words. I certainly don't personally hold that sentiment, but as always, it's appreciated.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to get back to it. See how many of these Contender Series cards we can get done. Little trip down memory lane as well. So, yeah, I'm excited to get into it. Let's chop her up.
Yeah, man. Just, of course, putting out my tweet now because I don't really care. But, in case anybody is unaware. So we're going to go ahead and hop into this. Yes, let's go ahead and let me get to the chat first because I haven't seen some of these names in a while. Devin, I believe you were second because there's only one first commenter. It's Zhongli. He's always here. He will always be here. The Zhongli parlay, a thing of the past in 2025 UFC. Let's be honest, picking 5 money lines to get to plus 4 digits, kind of tough. Yeah, don't worry about it. Aaron the dog, Aaron the pup, we are in here. Stubborn Mick in here a half an hour before. Moise, Hail Emotion, Transformer, sure. Stubborn Mick, very excited to have everybody here. And then one of the new guys, Joey DFS Betting, been working with him over at Pub Sports, so good to see you here. Joey, let's go ahead and hop into this. I'll put the timestamps in the comments. We got a decent little crowd here. I'll take it. It's the first one back and we're approaching double digits. It's been 9 months since I've been on one of these. So, yeah, it's really good to be back. I'm excited. I believe that the order has gotten switched around a little bit. I'm just going by Tapology here, but I do believe this fight's moved up, but whatever. We're going to talk about them all. Murtaza Talaha getting a second chance here. Short notice replacement of the striker. Bagsangurian Susakayev. So we're starting really easy with the names here. I still have the best pronunciation in the game. Raw Torque, I remember. What up, buddy? Good to see you here. Yeah, hail Liam, hail Fatty Bets. Liam going live at 11:30. Liam, hello. I know you're watching right now. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'll get in with the Russian. He is pretty significantly favored here, coming off of an 8-0 start to his career. Honestly, the level of competition, I've been decent, I guess. Shane Snubnowski, probably the most recognizable name on his list, and I was able to watch that fight. You made it pretty close with Shane Snubnowski. A little bit too close for my comfort. I do think that his striking is very good. Doesn't keep his hands up at all. The grappling kind of coming along. You kind of see I think he's still kind of learning as we go. He's going to go out there and try to strike with Talaha, obviously. And we got double-digit viewers on the first show back. I'll take it. I think this is pretty much a striker versus a grappler here. Talaha did not impress me at all on his Contender Series against Bellato. And then he goes and faces a guy who is deemed ineligible. So that is just like red flags for me. The thing that I don't like is that Susarkayev is coming in on very, very short notice. And I'm just not sure he is that complete product yet. I don't think Talaha out of Bahrain is at all. He has a knee issue that held him back apparently in his Contender Series. I don't really see a reason why other than that Talaha was the first to weigh in, looked like he had a much better weight cut. It's not going to be enough for me to get there. I'm not putting a bet on this fight at all, though, but I will take the favorite. I don't seem to like him as the number one favorite of the week, though. So what are your thoughts on this one, Lucky?
Yeah, it's one of 3 middleweight bouts we have. Susarkayev, like you mentioned, is in on very short notice, 24 years old, out of Chechnya. I think he's training at Killcliff at the moment, and he fought a lot on that that ACA Young Eagles promotion as well. But been in the States for a little bit. He won on Fury in his last fight. Talaha is representing Bahrain by way of Dagestan, Russia. And like you said, we saw him on Contender Series 2 years ago. And at the time, he was coming off basically a year-long layoff for ACL surgery and then didn't fight till the start of this year. So he's not been very active. 2 fights in 3 years isn't really ideal. And, he was somewhat highly touted coming out of the Contender Series last time. And I believe he was an IMMAF champion as an amateur. And he had a very successful pro run in Brave. And he was favored against Bellato in his Contender Series fight, but it just did not look that way at all. And I know there was the knee issue in that. Didn't really get his grappling going, was not good at range. And, his best weapon was that clinch striking. And when he did try the grappling in round 2, it just wasn't really, it wasn't working. We'll say that. It got stuffed pretty easily and just kind of shoved off. So it just never felt like he was going to win that day, at any point during the fight. So I don't know. I think maybe he just doesn't really have the glue to kind of put all of his skills together. He can grapple, but it just doesn't seem like he has that raw strength and athleticism to kind of impose himself there. It also doesn't really seem to me like he has crushing top pressure. He has power on the feet, but as boxing isn't super advanced, the volume isn't really as high as you'd like to see it. And I think you could maybe say the same thing for Susurkaev as well. So, is he a better grappler than Susurkaev? I think, probably maybe. Can he reliably take the fight there? I'm leaning towards no. I can kind of see him being stuffed more often than he's going to land one. And also, I just feel like we shouldn't be seeing him with his back up against the cage, as much as we have over the course of his career. If this is a guy that, needs forward pressure and to get the fight down and that type of stuff. So, yeah, could he catch Susurkaev with a counter on the feet and get him? I think maybe, yeah. Do I see that happening more often than not? No. So, yeah, Susurkaev is young and, potentially unprepared for this fight with it being so short notice. But I just see him having the ability to, create the situations that he needs to succeed. And Talaha, I just don't know if he's going to be able to do that. So I'm going to go with Susurkaev in this one.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing is the really, really short notice. Honestly, Talaha did look like he cut it very well. He was the first to the scales. I do like that. Susurkaev also did need the box, but I can't use that as a reason to bet a plus 250 here. But yeah, I mean, Susurkaev is the biggest favorite on the card here. And, I'm a little bit surprised about that, but he probably takes it. All right. Going to move on to the next one on Tapology. It's Christopher Eert, was a current UFC fighter for a half second there until he missed weight by 26 pounds when he said he was good. Yuri Paniferov, the Russian polar bear, making his return to the Contender Series. Another very lackluster first Contender Series bout, getting a go-ahead here against Christopher Eert. It's kind of strangely a very similar type of setup where I think we've got a guy who's going to be desperately grappling pretty often in this fight. If he doesn't, I think he's going to kind of get melted. And Yuri Paniferov, I just not liking what I'm seeing. He really is very dependent on getting these finishes very early on as a grappler. His best win is Bestiev. So it's Bestiev, not the best, honestly. And it's just the level he's fighting, it's just Rocky Edwards, guys like that. It's just and then he takes that step up against Torres Finney. Torres Finney, obviously a very different type of opponent for Christopher Eert, but I think it kind of just showed that once you get past that 2.5 point of the round or 1.5 of the round, I think he just gets worse I think he's a first round grappling type of finish here or not. I think once Eert, who has decent enough takedown defense, I think frame wise as well, he's got some big advantages here as well. I just like how he kind of keeps the pressure going in those. The Jimmy Pace fight was a good indication, I think, of what he's able to do. Reese Watkins his last time out. And then, I just think on the feet, Yuri's going to get into some trouble. And I think Eert gets some finish in the second or third round. First round, I think he's going to have his hands pretty low, watching for the takedowns. But I just don't think Paniferov's going to get enough respect on the feet. I don't trust his cardio. So I like Chris Eert here quite a bit. And I'll take him for a second or third round finish.
Yeah, so Eert 7-0 out of Chile, fought his last 2 fights on Fury. And, You mentioned, this fight got dissolved because Eert got the fight to call in the UFC against McVeigh on short notice, but couldn't cut the weight. So now back on Contender Series. And yeah, watching this fight against AJ Chambers, I thought his ground game looked, to be honest, pretty bad. There were a lot of positions where I felt like, he should have been able to escape, and he either couldn't do it or didn't know what he was supposed to do. I'm not sure. I didn't think that was a great look. I don't really think that AJ Chambers is a guy who should be, doing that to you if you're going to be moving on to the next level. But, Paniferov also, for him being a grappler, some of his grappling defense, like against Torres Vinny on Contender Series, didn't look very good, right? Like, you don't want to see guys tapping on the mat to a rear naked choke, right? Ideally, you'd like to see them tap on the arms or the hands of the opponent because, you're kind of supposed to be fighting the hands, right?
Right. Yeah, he's too tired, too exhausted.
Yeah. So Paniferov, listen, has fought a lot of guys who are pretty bad. And you mentioned Bastayev. That's probably his best win. And, Bastayev, I think, was well past his best before date for that fight.
Yes.
If there ever was one. So, yeah, listen, Paniferov, 8-1 with 8 finishes. Something to be said for that, for sure. I think Eert is the better striker. Paniferov, I guess, the better grappler. If I were the matchmaker, personally, I don't think I would have called either one of these guys, to be totally honest with you. I don't think it's a very high-level fight. Eert has decent boxing. I wouldn't really describe it as especially tight. A lot of wild shots, a lot of wide shots. I do kind of like his elbow strikes, but
sure.
I was thinking about Paniferov when I was watching the AJ Chambers fight, but listen, I just don't think Paniferov is very good. And I think Eert will have a bigger gas tank as the fight extends, if it does. And he just feels, in my gut, a little bit of a more reliable guy. So I'm going to go with Eert in this fight.
Yeah, the other thing with Eert is he was getting ready to face Jackson McVeigh in that fight. I feel like if you're willing to take that fight against McVeigh and then you're willing to go back to Yuri Paniferov, what have you been working on in your training this entire time? It has to be that weakness which was presented in the AJ Chambers fight. It has to be the grappling defense and the takedown defense. Honestly, I think, but I'm just confused because Eert was going to be a favorite against McVeigh. I was going to be very excited for that. I was ready to take McVeigh easily there. And here he's minus 210. Money is pouring in on Eert here. So we're starting out 2 fights in a row with, I don't have a bet here, but if like the 1.5 opens at even money or so, I would take that because I think that Eert is not going to be going for that finish early on. And I just don't trust Yuri to be able to get it where he needs to. So we'll move on. That fight should be okay. Next fight, we're in welterweight. We're out of the middleweights for a brief moment. We've got Jimmy Drago and Ty Miller of the LFA here. I can speak for myself here. I did not expect to see Ty Miller having a chance to get a UFC job this early. I'm not sure he's one of these guys who at 5-0 really deserves to be here. But hey, when you surprise Ryan Charlie Boy, I guess you get the call. Like, that's crazy. He was an underdog against Ryan Charlie Boy. Like, go watch Ryan Charlie Boy. He's not very good. It was a really clean knockout he had there on Charlie Boy. I'll give him that. He's a really big fella, wide, still filling into his frame here. Like, I could see him being a 185er in a couple years here because he just still looks kind of like going through puberty body almost. Like, it's just like he's still getting that man's body, but he's got like that raw strength. Obviously, don't like him coming into the Contender Series on that no contest, but it is what it is. I think that his opponent here in Jimmy Drago, pretty much a pure kickboxer, and he's got some, clean kickboxing, but he needs the space and he needs to be moving forward, I think, to be effective. And I don't think Ty Miller lets him get one step forward this fight. And, I know that we're past the days of talking about the small octagon with the Apex. Like, remember every breakdown, people would talk about what size octagon, and then we stopped that. Well, I do think that here with Ty Miller, that's pretty significant. He's going to be able to control the distance here. I mean, it's like Drago, one of his best weapons is like the head kicks and whatnot. He's not going to have the room to get those off. I think Ty Miller can make this a little more messy if he needs to. I think he mostly keeps it on the feet, but if he has to, I think the way better mixed martial arts fighter is also Ty Miller here. So with Jimmy Drago, 7-2, also coming off a no contest with Junior Mello in a fight where I didn't think he was looking all that great either. So like Junior Mello, like not somebody who I'm rating in 2025 either. Got choked out late in the fight as well, which I was not able to find, but it is what it is here. I just think that Ty Miller is going to be able to pressure him, probably get the finish as well, and somehow get a contract. So 6-0 Ty Miller, probably getting a contract. Come on down.
Yeah, so Jimmy Drago has been a staple of the Northeastern circuit for, about 5 years. He became champion in Ring of Combat, which I think is kind of an underrated promotion. His last fight was on CFFC against Junior Mello that you talked about, ended up being a no contest. I thought he was winning that fight handily. Now, whether or not you thought he looked good is another discussion. Yeah. But I don't think he was in any danger of losing that one. Mm-hmm. He did lose his pro debut back in 2019, but I'm going to throw that out the window. His other loss was at Tubabuladze, who is another good fighter on the New York scene. Also went on to become a Ring of Combat champion. And, Drago's aggressive, has some boxing. Ty Miller, 25 years old, still undefeated as a pro through 5 fights. I think he has good boxing. And to win against Eric Nolan and Manny Morales on CFFC at like 21 and 22 years old, I think is a pretty good sign of things to come. You mentioned the KO of Ryan Charlebois and LFA. That was a great win. His last fight, similar to Drago, was a no contest. Also a fight that it was looking like he was probably going to win. Yeah. Drago seems to be a little more explosive, and I think he's a decent striker. But I just think Ty Miller has the cleaner boxing and has the ability to just kind of dot guys up on the feet. I think he has a pretty functional game, and I think it's mainly going to be a striking fight. So yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think it's going to be Miller here.
Yeah, and at minus 180, I think that. Personally, I feel Ty Miller should be the biggest favorite on this card, but that's just maybe because I'm playing. But yeah, I am going to be playing Ty Miller here, and I do think he gets a finish. So I'll be interested to see if some props can come out for that as well. So, all right, moving on to the co-main, or at least the co-main right now. This fight I'm very excited about, very interested to hear your thoughts as well. George Mangos versus Snake Eyes Radley De Silva. Whoever wins this fight, I hope does make it. I hope it's not one of these where both guys are kind of, I feel both guys are a decent level. George Mangos hasn't faced a great level of competition yet. That's my big concern. He's a really impressive grappler from what I've seen, though. His grappling is very, very good. The striking coming along more and more by the fights. He got a big head kick knockout over like a 5-foot tall Asian man a couple fights ago. So there's that. But, he definitely has some, potential here. He's got all his fights available as well. So that was nice to be able to watch all 7 of his fights and really get a feel for his game. He needs to get the fight to the ground here. Radley De Silva is really impressive, I think, on the feet. I didn't like how he looked at the weigh-ins. I'm trying not to overrate that, but at the same point, Radley De Silva didn't cut to 146, cut to 145, and looked very sucked out to me. While George Mangos looked really healthy at this weight cut, looked like he, and he has a really good team behind him as well. But for me, Radley De Silva was the first, dog that I had my eyes on, and he still is a slight dog at +1. Let's see, plus 115 right now. I could see him being the favorite by tomorrow night. I think that he's just got the better overall game. I like that he's 30 as opposed to 21, 22 years old. I think a lot of times, the younger, I feel like Radley De Silva just is more matured into his body and more well-rounded as a fighter. I get concerned with the amount of spinning shit he does, especially against a grappler like Mangos. I hope he kind of calms down a little bit like that. But I like Radley De Silva here. I think that he can get a knockout. I think this difference on the feet is pretty significant. I don't think it's that huge of a difference on the ground. And I'm not sure if Mangos can get it there with Radley. So I think Radley has pretty good upside here. One of 2 dogs I'm betting on this card, Radley De Silva, plus 115. Now I got him at plus 140 yesterday.
Yeah, this is the best fight on the card. I think pretty obviously. I'm very familiar with Radley De Silva. I'm actually a big fan of his, and I have talked about him a lot on Twitter or, intermittently when he would fight over a couple of years, because I always thought he was really good and just super underrated as a prospect for a long time. So I'm happy to see him getting a shot here. I think it's a pretty tough matchup. Won the BFL title against Max Susi and stacked 3 defenses. And, he has some good kind of deep cut wins like John Wynn and McAloon and even Susi. Those are 3 pretty solid regional guys that a lot of people will overlook because of their records. But, on the regionals, you kind of get these guys that are really solid in one area. And, they present a legitimate stylistic challenge in that one regard. And people say, oh, they're 5-3 or whatever. So, they're terrible. But, John Wynn is a really clean striker, ended up becoming champion and unified, has really good body shots, but, typically loses to grapplers, right? A guy like Mike McAloon is a good grappler. And if you can't defend that, he's going to be able to grind out a decision. So, some of his more recent fights like Moctezuma or, Drake Randall or, Drew Brokenshire at almost 40 years old, I kind of knew all of those were, they weren't going to have much for him. Mangos, on the other hand, 7-0 out of Australia, 21 years old. And, there's a part of me that worries about that and thinks, he might be due for that first setback. But I was pretty impressed by this guy. He looks pretty good, not just for a 21-year-old, but just in general. And he's the champion in Hex, seems to be, like you said, that the well-roundedness is coming along. Grappling looks very good. What really stood out to me is he seems to have really excellent physicality for somebody at 21 years old. Yeah. So yeah, man, this is a tough fight to pick. I'm gonna go with Mangos here. But I've been a Radley De Silva fan for years, so I'm excited to see what he has, and I just hope the better guy wins here, because both of these guys I think are very good.
Yeah, no, I think if Mangos does lose, it's not the worst thing for him at this point as well.
Oh, he'll be back.
He'll be back, and yeah, I just think it's Radley's time here, but we shall see. I believe that's our first disagreement on the card, so we'll see if we agree or disagree on the main event. Ilian Bufuya, the Gorilla, coming down from 205. Niemas Santana out of Brazil. One LFA fight there for Santana. I'll be honest, man. I feel that Santana is like that Contender Series special. He might just knock out Bufuya and go 0-3 in the UFC. Like, it would not surprise me at all. I got a weird feeling, though, about this. Bufuya is by far the better fighter here. He's going to be bigger, more well-rounded. He does have some striking defense lapses, just like his brother, who got knocked out cold 2 weeks ago. And I just think that overall, I haven't been that impressed by Bufuya and what he did outside with Aries at 205, bouncing back down to 185 here. Hasn't been at 185 in a few years. Overall, he's fine. I don't see anything all that special here. I just feel like Santana's going to land one of those fucking lunch pails, man. He throws so hard. And it's like, I try not to judge some of these guys he's beating, because he's beating some trash bags like he is. But he's also like Santana, his last fight was against a good prospect in Marcos Vinicius, and he put him out cold. Then there was the Gianpaolo Silva fight. That was really fun to see. I get it, Gianpaolo Silva, he's not that great, but he went against Lucas Fernando in LFA, didn't get finished. He got absolutely dotted by that elbow. The ground and pound by Santana, the pressure again here. I seem to like the pressure and the aggressive strikers here with Ty Miller. And now Santana, he was my second dog of the week. I got him at plus 200. He's back down to plus 180. I think he knocks him out. Feels similar to me of that feeling of a Johan Lioness versus a Justin Burleson, some other of these fights where it's the other guy's better, but this is a pressure cooker. That's the Contender Series. And I just feel like Santana doesn't give a fuck. And he's just going to go forward and land one of those and put him out cold. Leave them with no choice. Dana's going to freak out, be like, I got to get this guy in there. Moist Audio says this is Will Curry versus Santos again. I think that's a great comparison, because it's another prospect from Europe who hasn't faced shit, coming across the stream for the first time over here, down 20 pounds, compromised, doesn't give a fuck. If he gets taken down and controlled, so be it. Knockout for Santana. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, Bouya, tall 28-year-old, 6'5", good athlete, good speed for the larger weight classes. And, this fight, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, man. It seems like we have Bouya, who is more of an athlete, Santana, who's just a scrapper, man.
Dude.
Like Bouya seems a lot cleaner, more measured. Santana just wants to force a car crash and knock your head off. So, yeah, he comes forward, he slings leather, he carries dangerous power. And Bouya, I don't really think has that death touch in his hands. I do think he can fight on the outside, use his length and his speed and find a way to win fights. But, a Bouya win requires much more to go right. There's a certain procedure that needs to be followed. And, for him to win the round, he needs to really win the round, right? If I'm in the Santana corner, I'm just looking for 1 to 2 moments each round, looking for a knockdown or a stumble or a wobble.
Santana doesn't want to win a decision. Santana will never want to win a decision.
You're looking for some kind of tell or opening that presents itself, maybe on an entry, on an exit that he can capitalize on. And maybe you get, 4 or 5 chances at that per round. You try to get it once or twice. It's a very concentrated plan of attack if I'm in the Santana corner. And, if I'm in the Bouya corner, it's much more heterogeneous. It's, be first, don't get caught in the cage, don't circle into the power, get in and get out, stay on your bike, all the cliche,
yes,
all the cliche statements
mix it up.
Yeah. So yeah, like to win a round, I think Bouya needs to win for 5 minutes. I think Santana needs to win for 30 seconds. So, listen, I think Bouya is a good enough athlete. I think he's cerebral enough to execute his game plan and win this fight, but he can't take a moment off. So at the number, I think Santana is the better bet here, man. And I think you said it perfectly when you were talking about Santana is that Contender Series coded fighter, right? Where it's just like Brazilian Terminator.
Nice juicy number because he didn't fight an LFA a bunch.
Yeah, not the prettiest record we've ever seen, but just goes out there to knock guys out. And I think he's just more of a scrapper. I think he's more of a dog. So, at the number, I think it's Santana here in the main.
Atta boy. I got my plus 200 yesterday. It's down to plus 180 today. It's probably going to be bouncing back and forth. I'm super excited. It's just, I feel like that grandma who's like, it's going to rain today. My elbow is shaking. When I watched Santana and then I watched Bouya, my elbow started shaking. I was just like, I know it's not the most technical breakdown here. I got a feeling though. So I know that 2 cents already got on Santana with me. Go ahead and get on the Santana train with me. But really quick, before we take off, I'll go through.
Okay. I don't know. I guess Aaron's gone now. It seems like it's just me in the show. Okay, there we go. I was just I assume you're gonna run down all the picks.
So anyways, really quickly, we'll just go through. We agreed on most of the fights here. We're both on Eert, correct?
Yes.
No bet, but both on Eert. Mangoes for you while I'm on Radley De Silva. Both on Susurkayev. Both on Ty Miller. And then I'm on Neemias Santana. What's your official pick? I know that Santana's the bet. What's your official pick?
I'm picking Neemias Santana to win.
My guy. All right. And just found out from Joey that Leandro Barboza made the transition into MMA. So that's great. Isn't he like 47 years old? That's going to be trouble. Also on De Silva. So, yeah, it seems like we got some De Silva love in the chat as well. That's going to do it for the first week of the Dana White's Contender Series. We will do our best to make it for all the shows here. We'll see if we do or not, but we should be back. We're planning on doing Monday nights after the weigh-ins for these as well. Lucky, anything for the people before we say goodbye?
No, not really, man. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. The @'s right there. Other than that, nothing to promote.
All right. Yep. And same here. We will be back next week. I'll be over on 2 Cents channel on Friday, over on Pub Sports, and might be making a return over to Fight Bananas for some coverage this week. So we're just going fully back to the past. It's just 2019 all over again. So for Lucky, for myself, for everybody in the chat, Eric, just my 2 cents, Joey, Zhong Li, Moise, Stubborn Mick, everybody, appreciate the support. we only going forward from here. Peace out.